one of my favorite ways of escaping everything when I was younger was to be able to sneak into the living room at my parents' house, turn on the TV, and watch something called professional wrestling. Back in the day when I was younger, it was called the WWF. Today they call it the WWE. And then there were these other wrestling networks too, stations to watch and all that. But there was the WWF. That was the big one, and that was my way of escape. And to me, these guys in the ring, they were like living superheroes. They wore kind of like a superhero outfit. And you always had the good guy versus the bad guy. Now, I was always the good guy fan. I don't remember ever rooting for the bad guys. Just the good guys. But I didn't like all the good guys. There were a couple dudes that I really couldn't wait to see come out into the ring and wrestle. There were so many different wrestlers. And even if you had a wrestler that was once a good guy and you really liked him, but when he turned bad guy, suddenly you didn't cheer for him anymore because now he's the bad guy, right? He's not the superhero, he's the villain. It's like what they did with Andre the Giant's character. If you remember Andre the Giant. A guy that stood around 7'4", I believe. Just really huge. He was the good guy. Everybody liked Andre the Giant. But then they had another good guy called Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan, he was actually, when I was a young man watching this stuff, he was my hero. First, he had the name Hulk in there, and I was a huge fan of the Incredible Hulk. But then you got this other dude named Hulk Hogan, and so, of course, I became a huge fan of this guy, Hulk Hogan. And he looked to me like a superhero. He was super tall. He looked like a giant himself, but not quite the size of Andre the Giant. And he always had this really cool music that he'd walk out into the ring to, and he was quite the entertainer. And I never wanted to see my hero lose a match. But you know, Andre the Giant, he was a good guy too, and he did this friendship thing with Hulk Hogan. But then, you know, they had the WWF, they had to come up with some new ideas. And so what they did to keep things interesting and moving and getting the fans all stirred up was they had Andre the Giant become a bad guy. This upset a lot of people. And suddenly, Hulk Hogan, well, he's the good guy. And he's going to get to this bad guy and set him straight. Maybe even turn him back into a good guy eventually. But no matter what Hulk Hogan tried to do, it seemed like his efforts wouldn't stop Andre from being a bad guy. And they'd end up wrestling each other. And your good guy Hulk Hogan wins. He slammed the Giant, body slammed him. And everyone was so happy. That was people that were really into this stuff. I took this wrestling stuff really serious. And I remember people making fun of me saying, don't you know that it's all fake? And I was convinced that it was not fake. It was real. And then people would say, well, don't you see when one guy punches the other guy, he's stomping on the mat to make it sound really loud? Boom, boom. They'd take their boot and they'd stomp on the mat in the wrestling ring. it would make a loud boom sound, and while they're doing their punches, and of course, yeah, they're kind of punching lightly, and they're not really punching like something that you'd see in the UFC, right? So I didn't like listening to why they, to them saying that, because now they're getting me to question things, whether this stuff that I believe to be real. Now they're getting me to question things if I believe the stuff that I thought was real. Now I'm going to start thinking it might be fake. No way. No way. So I had to come up with reasons why they stomped on the ring while they punched. That makes them punch harder is stomping their foot. Stomping their foot gives them more of a solid punch. I'd start trying to convince people of that. And, some people, oh, okay. But mostly they didn't believe me. So then I started thinking, well, maybe it's part of the rules. You can't punch somebody in wrestling without stomping your foot. Just like you're not going to hit a baseball in baseball without a bat. They're not going to let you catch the ball with your hand and throw it instead of hitting it with a bat. No, the rules are you hit it with a bat. So maybe the rules were you stomp your foot when you punch somebody. It was funny, man. I really couldn't stand that people thought that wrestling was fake, because I believed it to be true. But a bunch of others thought it was fake. But then I met other people like myself that also believed it to be true. Even as an adult, when I learned the truth about wrestling, of course, eventually, I think around maybe around 18 or 19 years old, it took me a while to figure it out, but I still liked watching it. And I would get so involved, even when I knew that they were doing fake stuff. I just thought maybe some of it was fake, but most of it was true. I had to gradually convince myself that this stuff wasn't true. Especially when you find out behind the scenes, when you listen to interviews of these wrestlers, that they were actually the good guy versus the bad guy. Well, after the match is over, they go out and have a drink together somewhere because they're actually buddies in real life. And when you start seeing things like that, you start waking up to a little bit to what, like, oh man, I have been bamboozled. Meaning I've been fooled. I've been tricked, and I bought into it. And eventually my interest in watching wrestling diminished. Although I did find myself still wanting to watch wrestling once in a while, because so back in the year 1990, I remember it was the month of June, and I was a Pizza Hut delivery guy. I delivered pizzas for a company called Pizza Hut. And it was June of 1990, and there was a wrestling event, good guy versus good guy. There was this wrestler that was relatively new. He had been in the WWF for a couple of years, and he was beating everybody. They called him the Ultimate Warrior. The funny thing is, I liked that name, Ultimate Warrior, so much. It kind of stuck with me all these years, to where eventually when I start my YouTube channel, I remember the story of Esther and Mordecai really stood out to me in Scripture. There's just something in there that's really powerful, and I think it applies to what's going on today. Even if we could just find these gemstones in there. But I remember, I like studying the meaning of Hebrew names. So Esther, her name had this meaning of hidden, right? Which is funny because she kind of lived up to that name. And then if you dig a little deeper into the meaning of her name, you understand hidden what? Hidden what? Well, you get this meaning of hidden beauty. And then Mordecai, you get different, you look at, they got it from Marduk, the false deity called Marduk. That's where Marduk. But when you really start to dig deep into the meaning of the name, you find out that one of its meanings is warrior. And I thought, that's a cool name. Why not call the YouTube channel Ultimate Mordecai, meaning ultimate warrior? I'm not calling myself the ultimate warrior or ultimate Mordecai. To me, Jesus is the ultimate warrior. Because he finished the battle. He finished the war. He took this giant down called sin and condemnation and gives me credit with his victory for me. So now I don't have to fight sin and condemnation and take it down. No, Jesus already did. I just got to rest in his finished work for me. And if I have to struggle or labor to rest, then so be it. Because sometimes your mind, you start hearing about all the stuff that's going on in the world, and what gets difficult is to still stay at a place of rest, which is, by the way, a place of trust. Let me give you a little example. There was a time when Jesus and his disciples, they were out on a boat, and a storm came. And this storm, its goal was to kill all of them, including Jesus. So what the storm did is it started tearing apart the boat. And it got the disciples worked up into a frenzy. And they started to panic. They did everything they could to try to keep the boat together, including taking buckets and shoveling the water out of the boat so it won't sink. They're panicking, and then they're looking around. They're like, wait, where's Jesus? Why isn't he up here helping us? Where'd he go? Someone says, well, he's inside of the boat. He was in the belly of the boat. And he was sleeping. Which is incredible because he was the most aware man that ever existed. Do you think he was unaware of what was going on? He was fully aware, but he was sleeping. Why was he sleeping? Because he trusted. He fully trusted, which put him at a place of rest. Do you know what? He trusted that he was who his Father said he was. And so since he was the Son of the Father, and he was the Christ, the chosen one, and he was put here to accomplish something, and that accomplishment was not going to end with him drowning in the ocean because of a boat that fell apart. No, he had to go to the cross, and before he went to the cross, he had to take a beating for us so that we could be healed, if you understand that. I don't want to explain that all because that'd make a whole nother video, but by his stripes, we are healed, scripture says. So, meaning he had to take that beating, take those stripes, those wounds. So he's sleeping. Now the enemy wants to bamboozle Jesus and say, no, this is the end of things for you. But Jesus was not bamboozled. And the disciples, were they bamboozled? I mean, the storm looked real. It felt real. It sure was tearing that boat apart. But what they didn't realize was we got Jesus in our boat. But their emotion realm got to them. Panic got to them because things started getting really real. this boat's getting torn apart, and this storm is real, and this boat is sinking, and we're doing everything we can. And then they're like, wait, why isn't Jesus here helping us? Where is he? He's sleeping in the belly of the boat. And when they finally went to him, instead of self-efforts, panic, anxiety, they go to him. Jesus is like, oh, what's going on? What? Boat? Sinking? Falling apart? Guys, do you not know who I am? Do you not know who's in the belly of this boat? Do you not know that I have power and authority and the right to use it? Watch this. And he rises up. And he goes and he literally tells the water. When you look at the Greek, it's really cool. He says, hey, storm, put a muzzle on it. Meaning, shut up. And the storm obeyed. Now, see, a lot of people think that this whole Jesus stuff is all just a bunch of religion and all that. But, no, you know, what you got to realize is your body's like that boat. And those panicking disciples are like your soul and your mind, this emotion realm. Panicking and seeing this is a real storm. Yeah, it looked real, it felt real, but Christ was on the boat with them, and that storm was not going to accomplish what it set out to accomplish. No weapon formed against you shall succeed. And Jesus knew that verse, and he went and said, shut up, be quiet, or literally put a muzzle on it. And it obeyed. Now, if that boat is your body and those disciples represent your soul realm, but Christ represents your spirit because your spirit is in the belly of your body, Jesus says. And your spirit is the spirit of Christ. So, that one who seems to be sleeping in your house and not paying attention to what's going on, because events have changed quite drastically in this world, and you think he doesn't care, he's not paying attention, or he wants your body to fall apart, he wants to watch you sink, he wants you to watch you panic, it really gives him joy. No. What he wants you to do is say, get down here and just relax with me. Enter into my rest. Well, they didn't go rest with him by laying down, but they actually did go to him as a last resort. And that's kind of what we do, you know, when, oh yeah, I better go to Jesus. Jesus says, hush the storm. Jesus, save us, save us. Well, he already saved you. And then he gave you his spirit, meaning you don't have to look for him and try to discover where he's at. Where's Jesus during these times? Well, he's in you, in your boat, in the belly of your boat. And guess what? Your spirit is there with him, resting. So what part of you needs to enter into his rest? That part of you is your soul. Your mind, your emotions. That part of you needs to enter into his rest with him. Now, the reason I wanted to tie all these things in together is I didn't know how they would come together, but I was talking about wrestling earlier and how I really wanted to believe it was real. It looked real. It sounded real. Look at those guys are bleeding. They're getting beat up in the ring. All this stuff. The reason wrestling was on is not because there's people that care to entertain you, and it's I want to entertain people. The real reason wrestling was on is because they want your money. It's all about money. They create a show and they get people to put advertisements on that show so that money can be made. And when you get hooked and start watching that stuff, what happens is now all the programming that's involved with it goes in your head. That's why they call TV a program, because you're getting programmed. I was programmed. I was watching wrestling. I was programmed. All the colors and all the excitement and the superheroes, for me, that was an excellent place of escape. It took me out of what I thought was, what felt real, certainly, and was real in my life. Fear, pain, a crazy, crazy sick family, spiritually, mentally, lots of physical, just a family that just, being in a cult, you guys, it's a whole different life. So, I wanted to escape that world because that was my reality. And I wanted to put myself in the wrestling world and make that my reality instead, because that was a much more funner place to be than the other stuff. But, the bamboozling, the fooling you, is just to get your money. Keep people watching. Keep the good guy against the bad guy. Make the good guy and the bad guy fight against each other, and you need to watch your hero win. And the thing that really was terrible about wrestling is they really, really knew how they knew how to really get you. What you would do is, so here's what would happen to me. They would take my favorite guy. So at the time in 1990, my favorite guy was Hulk Hogan still, even though this guy, the Ultimate Warrior, he came along and it was incredible. And I really liked him. But, I started out with Hulk Hogan, liking Hulk Hogan. How could I ever like the Ultimate Warrior more than Hulk Hogan? Hulk Hogan has to remain my hero. And I've seen wrestling matches with Ultimate Warrior, this guy that I really liked. And one of the things that really got me as Ultimate Warrior was Mr. Undefeated. He beat everybody, but then he'd get in there and wrestle this guy. And there was this guy they called Ravishing Rick Rude. And Ravishing Rick Rude, he had a thing against the Ultimate Warrior. And Ravishing Rick Rude was the bad guy and Ultimate Warrior was the good guy. And Ravishing Rick Rude had a guy that was his manager named Bobby Heenan. So Bobby Heenan, supposedly has this match. We're going to set up my guy, Rick Rude, versus your guy, Ultimate Warrior. And Ultimate Warrior belonged to nobody, but he was signed up in the WWF. But he was from parts unknown. He was like this mystery, right? They would actually announce from parts unknown. So Bobby Heenan has his guy Rick Rude in the ring, and Rick Rude's fighting the Ultimate Warrior, and it's obvious Ultimate Warrior is much bigger, much stronger, tossing Rick Rude around like he's nothing. Although Rick Rude was a really in good shape guy, but Ultimate Warrior was just way more, he looked like a giant bodybuilder in the ring. He was really tall too. So what happens is Bobby Heenan cheats. See, there's this thing where they start to distract the referees. You got one bad guy over here while their manager's over there distracting a referee and such. And so the referee turns and faces the manager and they're arguing while the guy in the ring, the opponent, he's doing something, cheating, using weapons and stuff like that. There's all this stuff going on. And as a fan, you get so mad. Like, referee, turn around, don't you see what's going on? But the manager's there distracting him. The referee's got his eye, and no, I'm distracted. It's not the referee's fault. He's being distracted. Oh, it would get me so upset. And then what happens is Ravishing Rick Rude knocks the Warrior down, and then Bobby Heenan, he's outside of the ring, and he ducks down, grabs the Ultimate Warrior's legs, and holds Ultimate Warrior's legs out so that when Ravishing Rick Rude pins the Ultimate Warrior can't kick out of the pin, because that's what they'd do. They'd kick out of it with their legs, kick out. But now Bobby Heenan's holding on to Ultimate Warrior's legs, and the referee just can't see what's going on. All he sees is that the Ultimate Warrior is pinned because Ultimate Warrior's legs are sticking outside of the ring, and Bobby Heenan's ducking, right, under the ring, so the referee can't see it. And now Ravishing Rick Rude beats my hero, the Ultimate Warrior, through cheating, and I was so upset. And I took this stuff so serious, and it would mess me up so bad. Well, then here comes a time where Ultimate Warrior, he makes his big old comeback again. He beats Ravishing Rick Rude. No cheating this time. We're going to go in a steel cage. All this stuff, right? I mean, these different matches that they did was just really funny. They had this huge feud. So Ultimate Warrior, he's champion. Once again, he's reigning champion, and they call him the Intercontinental Champion. But Hulk Hogan is the WWF Champion, World Wrestling Champion. Oh my goodness. So now we've got Hulk Hogan, my hero, and Ultimate Warrior, another guy that's becoming kind of a hero as long as he doesn't go up against Hulk Hogan. Ultimate Warrior, yeah, you're my hero too, but as long as you don't mess with Hulk Hogan, and that doesn't happen because those are good guys against good guys. That just doesn't happen usually, but it did. So Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. It's June of 1990, and I have to go deliver pizzas. So what I do is I rent this thing on pay-per-view, and I put a video. Back then we used something called VHS. So I stuck a tape into my VHS player, and I set it up to record that wrestling match because I am going to do everything I can to watch it. And it was on pay-per-view, and it cost money, but I was a pizza delivery boy, so I was making some money, and I'm going to pay for it. So here comes the wrestling match, and I have to go deliver pizzas. And of course, the big match, before I delivered pizzas, I got to watch a little bit of the beginning of the show, but the big match is at the end. The big match is going to be between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, the final match, and I had to go deliver pizzas, and I was really bummed. And I remember going to somebody's door, and I'm delivering pizzas, and they're watching the WWF stuff. Oh, you're watching it too? Yeah. And then you hear 1, 2, 3, Ultimate Warrior is the new champion. He is the heavyweight and the Intercontinental champion. He defeated Hulk Hogan. I'm at somebody's door, and sorry, I was about to cough. My eyes watering. I'm not crying. Oh, that was so sad. No. Good time for my eye to water. I just had a thing in my throat, like a tickle. So Ultimate Warrior, I have to hear at somebody's door that he pins Hulk Hogan. And I am just so upset. And I'm like, no. And I actually tried so hard to convince myself that what I heard was wrong. Something changed. By the time I get home and I rewatch this match, because I recorded it, it's going to end differently. The referee's going to say, we made a mistake. Hulk Hogan wasn't beaten. He kicked out. We counted to a 3 count, but he kicked out right before we said 3. So we're going to change this. And the funny thing is, when I went and watched the video at home, it almost looked like that. Come on, Hulk Hogan, you did kick out. The referee just didn't see it. But when I watched the video, yeah, Ultimate Warrior won, and there was no giving it back to Hulk Hogan. And my champion had been defeated, Hulk Hogan. And I remember having such a hard time with that. But the crazy thing is, I started watching Ultimate Warrior more, and then, before you knew it, he was my hero. And Hulk Hogan, I still liked him a bit, but no way. Ultimate Warrior, to me, became the guy. And in high school, I had some people in class with me that would call me Ultimate Mike, because I always drew pictures of the Ultimate Warrior, and I walked around and talked like the Ultimate Warrior. I did this voice and stuff, and so they called me Ultimate Mike. the thing was, you guys, I had been bamboozled, and so that I wouldn't get so upset in my head and not be able to live with things, I had to ease my mind in different ways. Learning that wrestling was fake, I had to kind of like adjust slowly to, no, it's not. It's just kind of fake. They're stomping their foot because, okay, to make it sound more effective. No, it's to make it more show, like to make it look more real. No, it's because he's supposed to stomp his foot. That's the rule, you know, and I make excuses till you find out, oh man, now what? That is fake. You know, being able to live with the fact that Ultimate Warrior pinned Hulk Hogan, it was so hard, but then I'm like, I'm going to pay attention to Ultimate Warrior, to where if I just make Ultimate Warrior my hero instead of Hulk Hogan, then I can live with that. And so I did. I adjusted my thinking so that I could cope. Now, I'm not saying adjust your thinking and trick yourself with what's going on in this world and pretend none of it's real, and so that you can cope. What I'm saying is, without Christ in your boat, you're either hopeless or you have to depend on your efforts and even the efforts of those around you for your protection and safety. Because those disciples on the boat, just one guy wasn't enough to empty the water from the boat. He needed help. Not just one guy was enough to hold the pieces of the boat together because it's falling apart. He needed help. But the truth was, no matter how much help he got from all his surrounding buddies, it still wasn't enough. Which means they all needed help. Every single one of them. Except there was one that didn't need help. There was one in the boat that was the help. The helper, if you will. And that helper rose up, and only that helper was the one that was able to calm the storm. These guys didn't know what kind of authority they had, being that the helper was with them. They could have calmed the storm if only they had known and believed. But see, they didn't know their identity. They knew who he was, the guy in the boat, but they didn't know who they were having him with them. Now, you and I, we don't have him with us. We have him in us, one with our spirit, which means the identity of our spirit is Christ in the boat. Now, when your mind and your soul realm and all those emotions start stirring you up and all this stuff in the world, it's so real and it is terrifying. I mean, come on. How can you cope? By pretending it's not really happening, getting lost in video games, watch more TV, rent more videos, whatever you do. I mean, those are just ways of escape, just like me with wrestling. Because I didn't want to be out there in the real world. That's the real world. It really was terrifying for me and really hard to deal with. So wrestling was my way of escape. But it's funny when I watch wrestling and I think about it now, I'm like, you know, it's all a show. And that show is all about money. The truth is, the final result is they want to keep you entertained and keep you involved so that they can make money off of you. And when I see what's going on in this world, man, they want your money. They want to siphon out of you everything they can get. But they want to keep using you as a slave because they need you to produce more and produce more so they can siphon even more out of you. like a towel, or a washcloth, you wring out all the water you can. Well, they don't want to wring you out all the way just yet. They want to make sure they get every little last drop. But the thing is, you guys, the most important thing is, this is not a religious thing. It is a Christ thing, you guys. Christ is real. And Christ is in your boat. And you are not separated from him. But your emotions can get you like those disciples. And you start seeing the winds and the waves and the storm is coming and it starts tearing you apart mentally and physically. And you don't know what to do. And you're wondering, why is Jesus sleeping in the boat? What's he doing sleeping? Come on, wake up, wake up. When all along, that identity is you. You just got to get your mind to enter into your spirit. Meaning, join the spirit. Follow the spirit. Your true identity. Quit being separated from Christ in you, but just be joined to him in you. Your spirit already has been joined, so why not get your mind there? Why not get your soul there? Because he's the only truth. He's the only reality. You'll hear things right now. You're going to hear of wars. You're going to hear of rumors of wars. And now you're going to hear famines as well. Starvation, hunger, food shortages. And I just listened to where the guy that is serving as the president of the United States, number 46, right? The one they call president-elect. Well, he just announced that food shortages are coming. They're here, and it's going to spread. Now, when you hear stuff like that, you might say, okay, well, it's time to store up everything I can. They call it being a prepper. Preparing. So, like those disciples, all right, if water gets on the boat, what do? We get buckets. Let's prepare for storms. Bring buckets on the boat. Bring tools. We might have to hammer pieces of the boat together. So they came all prepared with this stuff. But the one thing they forgot was, no, they came with Jesus. Okay, so they got their buckets, they got their tools, they got their things, their stuff for this world. They prepared, but you know what? When they ran out of resources because they couldn't, they were exhausted. The buckets weren't working, the tools weren't working. So when they ran out of those resources, they finally realized, wait, where's Jesus? And they go to Jesus. The best prepping you can do, you guys, because those resources, they'll only last so long. Now what do? You prepped, you did everything, you had a bunch of batteries, but when all this stuff ran out, well, I guess we'll just go to Jesus now. And that's what a lot of people can do. It's going to be last minute Jesus stuff. Now, I'm not saying Jesus is going to reject them. Nope, too late. But I'm saying it's best to go to him now and get him in your boat. And if you want to go try to battle the storm and all that stuff, then you go do it. But I'm going to tell you the best place to be is resting with him. And that means you put your trust in him. Panic all you want, fight the storm all you want, but you know what? Trust in Jesus, rest in him. And when you do, and when your mind and your soul realm enter into that rest, then you are the one that will realize, you know what? I'm not separate from Christ. I'm one with him. And you'll realize you have the power, you have the authority, and you have the right to use it. And you can tell that storm, hush. All right, just something for you guys to think about. I love you all. God bless you all. Keep putting your trust in Jesus. Figure out who you are. Discover what you've been given and learn how to use it and use it well. He's our only hope. All right, guys, God bless you. Be safe. Love you. See you all next time.